come to the bold analysis. The fact that activist Boniface Mwangi is still missing 2 days after confrontation with Tanzania police in a Dar-Esalam hotel, and the government of Kenya is adopting a laid-back approach on this matter, is something that should worry the country. I have today listened to how leaders are talking, and their speeches have left me a bit worried. Kenyans have been trading words with their Tanzania counterparts. Even as Suluhu was forced to ban Twitter in Tanzania after police account was hacked and AI-generated photos of dead Suluhu were posted there. So what exactly is this, and why is the officials back in Nairobi adopting a laid-back strategy in addressing this matter? Boni's family has come out today to call for accountability of him. We are in an era that things do happen, and I don't want to use the other word, but things do happen. So in this podcast, I'm going to show you the reaction, the laid-back reaction of officials back in Nairobi, and really looking at their reaction, what will be the hypothesis of the reason why Boni and the activist from Uganda are still remaining at large. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our videos. Thank you very much for supporting this podcast, and I am happy that the subscription rate has increased out of just realizing that it's now going to 30%. Yes, subscription rate out of 10 views ni wangapi wame subscribe. So the rate has increased, by the way, for the last 1 week from 20% to 30%. And I'm happy that the content is actually satisfying you. So make sure you subscribe. Subscription is absolutely free. And the advantage is when you subscribe, you shall be receiving notifications. Tanzania officials were uncomfortable with delegation of activists from Uganda and Kenya, and a number of them were all deported. High-profile names from this country, former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga and the NA Kenya party leader Martha Karua, and other CEOs from civil society organizations were deported back in the country, and only the Chief Justice Emeritus David Maraga was allowed to go to enter Tanzania. Now, what we have captured and what has been reported largely in media is that these activists were actually in Tanzania for appearance, so that they stand in solidarity with the opposition leader Tundu Lissu, who is facing treason charges from in Tanzania, and he is the main competitor to Samia Suluhu. And I said the other day that we are a bit different. Can you detain an opposition leader in this country, Kenya? Hey. Nakuambia. Everyone else was deported except these two, Agatha Atuaye and Boniface. I've gotten that pronunciation wrong, but it's not my liking. I've struggled with it. Agatha Atuaye and Boniface Mwangi. And the country needs to be very wary about this because Boniface Mwangi started raising questions about his safety, and he released photos, videos of how he confronted, when he confronted officers who allegedly wanted to arrest him for some interrogation. So they were all taken there for that interrogation, but the rest were deported and the two remained. I saw the wife today, flanked by a section of civil society organizations, overwhelmed in tears, asking the government to be accountable on the whereabouts of Boniface Mwangi.
She made a desperate attempt by visiting the Tanzanian High Commission in Nairobi Wednesday.
Boniface Mwangi, loving comrade.
As she sought answers about the whereabouts of her husband, activist Boniface Mwangi, whose fate still remains unknown after he was arrested and detained by the Tanzanian authorities. Her effort failing to yield much.
But in terms of providing any information, they just sound as blank as we all are. They have no information.
With tears flowing freely, Njeri, who was in company of her family, narrated the ordeal of not knowing the fate of her husband.
So it's not fair that they are holding him, whatever they are holding him for. It's not fair, it's not right. They need to release him and send him home.
And hapo West Africa. Hata wezi ongelea siasa uliza ati siasa hapa inakaaje. Hii freedom tuko nayo ni mingi. Unasatusi kila mtu unaongea vile unataka. Hii kimbelembele yetu hii msipeleke kwa nchi nyingine. My friend. Kwanza ningekuwa Mama Suluhu, ningeweka hawa viboko mbili siku mbili kama dawa ndio warudi nyumbani wakiwa na heshima. Hii kimbelembele yetu ya Kenya na freedom na demokrasia tuko nayo. Fanyeni tu hapa, lakini msidhani msipeleka hapa kwingine hapa nje. So hii kelele yote mnapiga, kwanza watu walihurumia tu kwa sababu ni marafiki yetu. Ingekuwa tu hawatujui, hiyo ujuaji mko nayo. Sasa mnajifanya ati mnataka kwenda kufanya kesi Tanzania. Si mmemaliza kesi hapa hii makoti yetu hapa. Tumsaidie watu wenye wajiwezi wamezama huko kwa prison. Wamezama huko, kuna mtu anafanyia kesi huko kotini hapa. So mjitolee mfanye free. Hii kimbelembele hii muache tafadhali. Na I wish mnajua demokrasia yetu na yani mko na demokrasia, mko na freedom ya kila kitu.
Now, Musalia Mudavadi is the Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary. And I believe yesterday, his appearance in Citizen TV, that interview with Yvonne Okwara, was a calculated call for them to respond and give a statement on this. But choosing to appear in the mainstream television, and by the way, he was being interviewed at the top of the hour, at prime time, 9 p.m. news. Now, when you listen to how Musalia Mudavadi is talking, it is a bit worrying because he seemed to be defending Tanzania on this matter, while, if not neutral, he should actually be objectively talking about the whereabouts and what they're doing.
Yeah, but would you call what happened to them cordial? Waziri, are you satisfied with the manner in which they were treated?
I think what we need to do, maybe the flip side of it is this. We need to also appreciate that sometimes we take the freedoms we have here for granted. I think it should also be a wake-up call to us in Kenya that how we operate, how we speak, how we express ourselves does not necessarily please or work in other countries.
So are you saying that how they operate and how they spoke in Tanzania was not pleasing to the authorities? Is that what you're saying,
I said they must have rattled the feathers. Okay? And I think so because they went in, it's an emotive election time. One of the candidates is not contesting. There's a petition in court. So when the Kenyans went there, I think the Tanzanians may be looking at it and saying, why have Kenyans come to address themselves to a Tanzanian affair?
Well, they say that this is not particularly a Tanzanian affair and that they were not there for the election, that they were there to observe the trial of opposition leader Tundu Lissu, and that this had nothing to do with the election. Are you then saying you agree with the Tanzanian authorities that they were there to interfere with local politics?
I think it has everything to do with the election. The petition is about Tanzania's election. So the visit there was about everything to do with the election, as to whether who is participating or not participating. Okay, that is why they went there. If the petition was not there, they would not have been going there for that. They would have gone for other reasons. So clearly, this has attracted the attention of the authorities in Tanzania.
And when you listen to Musalia, coming from a seasoned politician, a man who has even served in the Foreign Affairs docket and understands the East African terrain, I agree with Kenyans who are saying that that was below him. That was not good taste. It is convenient to blame them and say they were meddling with affairs of another country. But if you look at the profile of meddling, I don't seem to see it, because they were supposed to attend the court session. Now, I don't know, can Boniface Mwangi go and campaign for Tundu Lissu? That was not the objective, because even in this country, he's never campaigned. I saw sometime President Ruto, when he was serving as a deputy president, he once went to Uganda and campaigned for Museveni. I have seen Babu Owino campaigning for Bobi Wine in Uganda. But I don't know this meddling profile, because it was a bit standing in solidarity, even though that is what we've been served to know, and that does not necessarily mean that there is no meddling. Now, attending a court appearance, did Kenya Kwanza order his detention? Because what appears to be a Tanzania authorities detaining them, the way the authorities in Nairobi are talking, they're like, you have this child and you take this child to a neighbor and you tell the neighbor that mimi nikimchapa maybe wenzake watapiga kelele, sasa unaenda unampeleka kwa neighbor. Are Nairobi officials using the Dar-Esalam airport confrontation just to try to humiliate Boniface Mwangi? I'm saying this because Senate today, Cherargei was talking, and he actually praised Suluhu on this heinous act, and just saying that trying to defend Suluhu on what is happening.
This country, people should avoid bad manners. I want to thank Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan for calling out activists who wanted to go and disrupt the peace in Tanzania. In fact, should have detained and prosecuted them, because they have taught this country bad manners, Mr. Speaker. These activists, they have taught our people to insult, to undermine, to lose respect to the leadership of this country, Mr. Speaker. Tanzania is a very peaceful country. And what President Samia Suluhu Hassan said, we should respect our countries, Mr. Speaker. There is mutual respect. And I hope as the activists run around East Africa trying to meddle in the internal affairs, they must be put to stop, Mr. Speaker. Because what business would you have to go and meddle in affairs of Tanzania? What business, Mr. Speaker? These activists, and I want to ask President Samia Suluhu Hassan, Mr. Speaker, of Tanzania, to be very careful, because these activists are funded by enemies of Africa who want to destabilize the unity, the peace and tranquility of most African nations, Mr. Speaker. You saw even in the last Gen Z protest, Mr. Speaker, there were allegations that international donors were financing instability, Mr. Speaker, in this country, using what we call international donors, Mr. Speaker. So I want to ask the President Samia Suluhu Hassan that in the spirit of East Africa, he should assist us to discipline some of these ill-behaved activists that have continued to destabilize Kenya, Mr. Speaker. The island of peace of Tanzania must be protected, Mr. Speaker. And our finye kabisa.
The existence of those treaties, Mr. Speaker. This is something that must be condemned, and is not right, and could actually lead to reciprocation by Kenyans for other members, Mr. Speaker.
A non-full detention is now rumored as an abduction, and is worrying news to East Africa. And I'm saying, much as this can be treated as a Boniface Mwangi humiliation, but there is the wider view of the East African region. And the region must remember, even Tanzanians, Uganda and Kenyans, the region must remember that Museveni in Uganda is facing an election next year. Suluhu could be facing an election this year, It could be this year or next year, to even 2025. No, it's not this year. Maybe this year, I don't know. Someone will tell me. It's this year. President Ruto is going to face an election in 2027. We could actually be dancing with the three leaders that are now courting each other and have formed a good ring for their own political safety, own survival safety to power. Yes. And the country can casually treat this as, you know, Boniface Mwangi is reckless. I've seen people saying, oh, Boniface Mwangi this, Boniface Mwangi that. And if it was a matter of being in that country unlawfully, or the country gauges the security profile and realizes this is not the right person to be here, then the most responsible thing is to deport him back to his home country. Something is not right. And I like the argument from Sifuna that East Africa as a community has enjoyed over years mobility of labor. And I have a friend who works as a teacher in Tanzania.
Speaker, as a Kenyan leader, I know that we leaders have a responsibility to Kenyans and no other person. I was deeply embarrassed, Honorable Speaker, that at a time when people are being deported from our neighboring country, and if you look at my passport, Honorable Speaker, I have the blue passport. It says East Africa Community. When I was a member of the Law Society of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, at the council, we used to do something called, push for something called cross-border practice. There are lawyers who are qualified from the University of Dar-Esalam, Tanzanians, who practice law in our Kenyan courts. There are students at the Kenya School of Law from Tanzania and from Uganda. I know lawyers who went to Kampala International University and Makerere, who qualified there, and they have come to the Kenya School of Law. They are practicing law in Kenya. So therefore, Honorable Speaker, for us to have a situation where people cannot be allowed to move freely in the community is something that we must call out. Honorable Speaker, I have heard people trying to justify, saying, oh, these are activists. Activism in itself, Honorable Speaker, is not a crime. I know Tanzanian law, there's no law that says activism is a crime, Honorable Speaker. So for me, I was deeply embarrassed to see our Foreign Affairs Minister, who should be our foremost defender, adopt a very nonchalant, a very laid-back, a very lazy attitude yesterday on Citizen, Honorable Speaker, that he has not even summoned the Tanzanian ambassador to ask him what was the reason why these brothers of ours were expelled. As we speak, there are Kenyans whose whereabouts are still unknown. Just show some concern for your countrymen. That is the job that you are given to do, Honorable Speaker. So I was a bit disappointed. And we need to, as a community of nations in East Africa, we must, Honorable Speaker, call out dictatorial tendencies whenever they emerge, because we are all brothers. If you ask Senator Eddie at his border in Isebania, people trade and cross over freely. We are brothers and sisters, and we cannot allow a situation.
Yes. The same mobility of labor that is why the characters that you normally see around the road, no, I don't want to say the guys that are underprivileged, most of them, someone was even saying, some of them are just brought from Tanzania. And we border Kenya. I was even being told one day, I was on flight to Nairobi, na kulikuwa na shida ya weather, and then we were having, person was sitting next to me was telling me that, do you know, kukiwa na shida, emergency landing ni Kilimanjaro. So we cohabit. What exactly is this? This then opens a big question that we must confront. What is the motive behind it? Is Tanzania, remember, just around this, Tanzania was forced to ban Twitter. Why? Someone hacked their police account and posted a video, showing the current president Suluhu in a coffin. Yeah, this what we normally do here. And, African presidents must know that the largest population in the continent are young people. And secondly, the penetration of technology is high. And with the emergence of AI, everything is possible. What is the motive? behind this. Looking at how these fellows are taking it casually, I've seen a response from, I've seen Kasipul, the gentleman here, Kasipul, who calls himself Chawa Rais, really here defending Suluhu on what happened. But I want to look at this way. Remember, when you listen to how Kenyans reacted, the speech from Cherargei can show you one thing, that Kenya is a bit uncomfortable by the activity of those activists. Now, there was also Hanifa Boniface Mwangi. Boniface Mwangi and Hanifa were credited for the Gen Z protest in this country. They were the face of that Gen Z protest in this country. So, did Tanzania feel that they are going there to give Tundu Lissu the Gen Z template? Or maybe their presence in that country will trigger a youth uprising? It's not that way. And I know the reason why Tanzania banned Twitter is because the Gen Z protest in this country, the mobilization was done in Twitter. Hey? Yes, the mobilization was done in Twitter. Wale watu walikuwa wanaongea sana kwa Twitter. And that is why the anti-finance bill protest was hot. So someone banned it because they didn't want the conversation to go on the other end. But I don't know whether Tanzanians are so aggressive in Twitter. I don't know. I doubt. I normally don't see the Swahili tweets. Maybe I don't follow many of them. So, but listening to Cherargei, someone will be seated somewhere and wanted to provoke international community so that they can know, they can try to map out who are their masters or who are their financiers. Yeah, the underlying factor is there is they could be having an organization that is supporting opposition leaders in the continent or in the region. And the government is uncomfortable about that. Now, the person that has been arrested are two. Bonnie and the lady activist, journalist, I think they're an activist from Uganda. Could Tanzania then be thinking or profiling Bonnie as the man behind the hacking? Yeah, because now that is the only damage that has been caused. Could they be profiling, and they want to investigate and profile Boniface Mwangi as the man behind hacking? In Kenya here, I've never seen that. Yes, I've never seen police account hacked. Things are hacked, but it's very rare at this end. And that is why I believe that if those who feel Bonnie has aggressed them is Tanzania, then Kenya still needs to intervene. Now, the other observation here is someone is sending a warning shot. And that is why I started saying this should worry the region. That no East African country is then safe space for government dissenters. A question. Will Tanzania be safe? The state is running a mock test on the strength of Gen Z. I want to test, yes, Bonnie has been arrested. Can Gen Z come out and defend him? Can it cause an uprising because of that? So many other factors are on table. But I am against the laid-back strategy response from Nairobi officials. You can tell me what you think. Tuonane kwa hiyo ingine. No, I know this is Tanzania, so you need to do some funny Swahili. Tuonane kwa hiyo ingine.